Next question. This comes from Jason. He writes, I have about $80,000 on a mortgage and no other debt. I have cash equivalents of about twice that, which I could apply to the mortgage. But I have a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old who are going to college. I don't want them to exit college with a big debt, so my wife and I are looking to pay for their college in state at least. Question is, should I pay off the mortgage at 2.875% or save it all for the impending wave of college debt? Tsunami. The tsunami of college debt.
Right. So the first question when it comes to college is always financial aid. And he want to first look at and see how much he might be eligible for. And there are various calculators on the web that can at least provide a basic analysis. That said, aid is mostly in the form of loans, and it sounds like they don't want to do that for their kids. So, but if there's any chance that they are eligible for aid, one strategy might be to use the cash to pay off the mortgage, because in the calculation of financial aid, stuff in a bank account can count against you, but home equity doesn't. So by paying off the mortgage, you would be moving stuff from the bank to the mortgage. You're still from a balance sheet perspective, be doing the same thing, but you'd be eligible for more aid for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, and just from a dollars and cents perspective, I mean, $80,000 worth of debt at 2.875 is very cheap money. And you could invest some portion for your retirement or for their education at hopefully a higher rate of return. So, I would look at holding on to that debt. It also affects your credit score. If that's your longest piece of debt, there's a calculation of how old your debt is. And so you could be impacting your credit score if you close that account early by paying it off. And then I would recommend, something that I often recommend for folks is incent your kids. So loop them into the conversation and say, okay, here's how our picture looks. We need to pay for this much, hypothetically. Can you go out on your own and find scholarship money? And if you can, we'll match that with our own funds. And that starts to give you a firmer picture of how much money you might need to contribute to their education versus your own personal goals, either retirement or paying off a house. And because a lot of people, my biggest regret is not looking for scholarships and getting into a debt situation. But at the same time, debt helped me enormously because it is my longest piece of debt, so my credit score is outstanding. And it taught me about money early on when I wouldn't have learned otherwise. So debt for school helped me a great deal.
I'm glad you brought up retirement, because actually what you have in your IRAs and your 401ks is also not counted as an asset with the financial aid calculation. So if he hasn't saved enough for retirement, he could use a lot of that cash and put it into his 401k and IRAs, and that way he'd be bulking up his retirement savings, and also looking better from a financial aid perspective. Sean also mentioned about investing the money for a higher return. I would say if you've got a kid who's a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, you're going to be paying college expenses pretty quickly, so I wouldn't take too much risk. And I say that because I remember talking to someone who was a financial reporter interviewing me back in like 2002. And I said something like, well, you don't put money in the stock market that you need in the next few years. And then he talked about how he had his daughter's college education fund in the stock market when she was a senior in high school. .com bust comes.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it disappeared. So play it safe. Once your kids are in high school, you should be playing it pretty safe.
Wow. Oh, that's brutal.